I know that you were having a great time in Scotland, so you probably missed this.
Uh-oh.
But for
Okay.
this year, no, it's not nothing political. It's good.
Okay. All right.
So for the Kentucky Derby this year,
Ah.
I don't know if you heard, but
No.
all the horses in the Kentucky Derby were spawn or come from the Great Secretariat.
All
So
of them?
every horse is from the lineage
Okay.
of the Great Secretariat. Now, my question to you is,
All right.
how upset is Elon Musk about this?
That's right. Yes, a legion of babies. Yes, that's what we have.
It's the first thing I thought of was, I mean, he's got to be like really upset at that horse.
He's being usurped by a horse, yeah, and an old horse at that, right? The horse that's died many years ago.
But you know he's planning that. I mean, not to get too technical about it, but I'm sure he's freezing things so that he can proliferate the muskness for years and years and decades and hundreds of years to come.
Yes, that musky scent will continue, and I guess it's really about. Oh my gosh, my inner 17-year-old is really just at running wild right now. Yeah. I guess it's the legion of babies. You got to figure, whatever, 40 years or 30 years from now, we'll all be sort of the board of some company, and two guys like us will be on a podcast going, "Hey, did you know that at this year's board meeting for X, it's going to be all the spawn of Elon Musk?"
The spawn of Elon. We probably should take out that domain name.
The spawn of Elon.
The spawn. It's going to be worth.
That is a science fiction novel right there.
It's got to be worth dozens of dollars in the future.
I like it.
At least. No.
Just remember, everybody has a story to tell. Tell it well. Of this old marketing.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This old marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 479 for Friday, May 9th, 2025. And with me, as usual, my pal, my colleague, and a guy who would have totally drafted Shedeur Sanders, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
I was wondering, we didn't get to talk about the draft at all.
I know.
And that was the story of the draft. Who is going to take Deion Sanders' kid, Shedeur? And you would
shedeur at the thought. I shedeur at the thought. So many jokes.
So for those of you that weren't paying attention, the Browns took a quarterback, not Shedeur Sanders, in the third round, number 94.
They took like overall 7 quarterbacks, didn't they? I think
they have 7 quarterbacks. Yeah. They didn't take 7 quarterbacks. I'm not really sure what the quarterback strategy is.
Yeah.
Well, what's really odd about this, I can't make sense of it. The Browns had meetings with Shedeur and Shedeur's team, which I'm assuming include Deion as well.
Of course.
Four times before the draft, because the Browns had the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah.
And they were looking at whether, because Cam Ward, I guess, was the number 1 rated quarterback, and everyone thought that Cam was going off the board first, and Cam did.
Yes.
Cam was taken first. And so here the Browns are sitting at 2, and they traded their pick to somebody else who did not take Shedeur, and no one took Shedeur.
That's right.
For the first 3 rounds. And then you're thinking, okay, if they liked Shedeur Sanders so much, they're going to get a bargain here at 3. And they get a quarterback in their 3rd round pick, Dylan Gabriel, I think, from Oregon, not Shedeur Sanders. So you're like, wow, this guy's really got a mark on him. Like nobody wants to have anything associated with Shedeur Sanders. And you know that the Browns are out of it because they already took their quarterback. No, the Browns are still in the game because in the 5th round, they trade up their 6th and 7th round, whatever picks they had left. They traded up with Seattle. They get the 5th round pick and pick Shedeur Sanders. So now we have 5 quarterbacks.
That's right.
To choose from this year. It's very exciting.
It's amazing. And now he's suing the NFL apparently because he dropped so low. It's like,
you know what? Why not?
Yeah,
because
of course.
It
Why
seems
not?
to be it's the blame game for whatever reason is a good strategy today. It's like I don't like how things are. It's not my fault.
It must be a
So
lawsuit.
I'm going to blame
right?
somebody
Exactly.
else.
Yeah, there must be a lawsuit in there somewhere, right? It's quite amazing. It's quite amazing. I mean, and the what's coming out now is, of course, all these GMs that had and coaches that had meetings with him who said, yeah, that meeting didn't go very well. And it's like, it surprises me. It really does surprise me that the Browns took him with all of that known, given the drama that they've just been through for the last 2 years. It's like,
they're so dumb. They're just, I don't know if we've talked about it in a while, but there's a lot of controversy going on because the Browns are trying to get a new stadium. So they're moving outside the city, which literally is a block outside the city, into Brook Park because they want to build their own multi-billion-dollar facility.
Yeah.
And I saw a clip that somebody made on social, which is brilliant. They said, "Oh, first of all, here's the rendering. It looks like a Tesla truck." Is it from the outside? Okay, well, whatever that is. And then they said, but they've got some kind of new technology where it's indoor, outdoor, but there's a dome inside the dome. And then they show a picture and the field is covered. You can't see the field. And it's just, there's a sign that says, "Trust us, we're scoring a lot."
Yeah.
Like, trust us. I know you can't see the game, but the Browns are scoring.
Oh, that's good.
They're just
good stuff.
It's just crazy. I don't know why I have no idea what they're doing, but the first thing I thought of, which has no truth to it at all, but when the pick happened and we traded up to get Shedeur Sanders, the first thing I thought of was because Trump just put out the tweet the day before. It says, "Somebody should draft Shedeur, my good friend Dion," and the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, for those that don't know, Jimmy Haslam, who's the owner of the Cleveland Browns, is good friends with Mr. Trump. And I thought that somebody made a call over. This is something I think would actually happen. Made a call over to Haslam.
Well, that's an
and
interesting.
Hey,
I like that theory. Yeah.
It's been the fourth or fifth round. Would you just take him? Just take him. The kid. That's what I thought. Nobody believes me. I don't have no proof that this is a thing, but this is what I think happened.
So here's my question to you: of the 5 quarterbacks that you now have in the quarterbacks room in the Browns, who's your starting quarterback in September?
Joe Flacco.
You think so?
Flacco fever. Joe. I mean, Joe can still throw it like he's 22 years old. I mean, he can't move. He never could move around. If you can protect Joe Flacco, we will win games. It's not Deshaun Watson, which they're just figuring
he's
out.
going to be hurt, right? He's
well, yeah, he's going to be hurt. Sure. He's good.
Yeah,
They're just trying to figure they're trying to figure out a way to just cut him without losing whatever salary cap thing that they've got going on. They're just trying to hide all this money somewhere. Then you have it's not Bubby Brister. I always think about
the Kenny
Kenny
Pickett.
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, from the Steelers. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever? So Kenny Pickett's hands are a quarter of the size of Joe Flacco's.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't know how Kenny Pickett can hold a football.
Yeah.
Let alone throw a football.
Yeah, he's a schmo.
So there's that. Yeah. Then we have Dylan Gabriel, who we drafted ahead of Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
And then we have Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. And then did you see, I saw Myles Garrett, who decided to stay with the Browns, who was like all upset and butthurt about being with the Browns, and then decided to stay. And they asked him, they said, "Do you know who the starting quarterback is going to be?" And he smiled and said, "I absolutely do." And he's super happy about it. So he must have something.
It's probably Joe. Yeah. Yeah. Myles Garrett, he had his morals or whatever. He wanted to go play for a Super Bowl winning team. Right. He said he would accept nothing less until he walked into the meeting room and they had a bunch of cash laid out.
Yeah, exactly.
And he said,
the suitcase of money.
I might I might actually
Right.
be changing my
Right.
mind right now.
My
That's
horse is
exactly
not
what
that
happened.
high.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, this is what you meant by
My
going to a winning
yeah.
team, filling my pockets with
My field
dollars.
of F's just bloomed.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's just all the drama, and maybe that's the play.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like, hey, we want to sell tickets because we're not going to win games. So if we create more of this drama, it'll be better. People will
Yeah.
buy Sanders jerseys. I
Yeah.
don't know. How was your? Did you even check on your Cowboy stuff? Like,
Oh
are you
yeah. Well,
happy?
we the big news with the Cowboys is, of course, that they made a trade for George Pickens, who is the phenom receiver that played for the Steelers the last couple of years, and everybody's super happy about that. So, Cowboys have had an interesting offseason. Basically, they've done all the things that they were supposed to do. They've checked all the boxes. So we'll see. We'll
Mhm.
see. But I did. It is the one news that I checked while I was on
You
my
did
trip.
check, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
it was all the I mean, everyone was very excited in Cleveland about this move.
Yeah.
Did you hear who got? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. But anyways, before we get on to the show,
Yeah.
you had a wonderful time in Scotland.
We did. Thank you for asking. Yes, it was absolutely spectacular. To any of you out there who live in Scotland, you have a absolutely beautiful country. We spent a good part of a week driving through the Highlands. I got on the road. I drove a car. It was fantastic. Switching to the other side of the road didn't bother me one little bit.
Really?
Like I
No
thought, yeah,
problems at all?
no
Wow.
problem. So easy. I'm glad that we got a truck though, because it's once you get up into the Highlands and into some of those roads there, it's not for your sports car. And so it was amazing. We went on some guided tours, drank a lot of whiskey, drove down to Isle of Skye, which is otherworldly. I mean, Isle of Skye is just every single person on that you should do that trip.
Got
to
to put
Isle of
that
Skye.
on the list. Isle of Skye.
It's like, yeah, it looks like out of a science fiction novel. It is so beautiful. So beautiful. Interestingly enough, I will say this. I didn't realize this, but apparently Scotland is now the number one European tourist attraction. I didn't know this.
That's
And
incredible.
so, and you feel it. Like when you go to Edinburgh, we of course did the touristy thing and went to the castle and did all of that. And it was overrun with tourists and a lot of Americans were.
How do the
were
locals feel about that and all the tourism?
They're happy about it. They're really, they're super happy about it. They're because they're all busy. They're all super busy.
businesses are
Restaurants are
booming.
busy. Like my wife and I were making a joke with each other. It's like every single restaurant you walked into in Edinburgh was like, do you have a reservation? And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, if you don't, I mean, it's crowded. It's definitely crowded. And this is not the crowded season, right? This is definitely the beginning of the crowded season, but it's
Got
not
in
yet. And so
early.
it's crazy. It's
Well,
crazy. But as
when
we got
we-
into the Highlands, there was a lot fewer people, obviously.
When we went to, on a similar note, when we went to Iceland and visited Reykjavik and the outside parts, their tourism is up something. Went from nothing 15 years ago to everyone's going to Iceland now, and it is gorgeous. But we did talk to a few of the locals there that were a little frustrated because there's so much tourism, and they were a little bit afraid of losing some of the cultural aspects because they're just being overrun by tourists all the time, and they're serving tourists all the time. It's like a major part of their economy now. So
Yeah,
I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's happening in Scotland, which is good.
Yeah,
Just,
it's
Americans are just everywhere except for America. It seems.
Well, and it's interesting because there was a lot of Americans, and the sadly for us, the stereotype still holds true. So it was not. It was. I wouldn't say it was our finest showing. I'll put it that way. The tourists that we saw walking around Edinburgh. So and by the way, but a lot of Germans, a lot of Italians, a lot of Japanese, a lot of Chinese, there was a lot of international tourists there.
Got it.
Yeah.
So So you were loud and obnoxious and needy, and
In fact, we were quite the opposite.
you
Yeah,
held strong to the American brand. Is
we
that what
were
you were doing?
quite opposite of that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Meek and
Yeah.
patient.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
All
good.
right.
I'm glad you're back. I
Yes.
had a lot of good comments on our special episode on the
Yeah, I
content
saw that.
entrepreneur.
I saw that.
And but now we're back with a boring old news episode.
We are. We've got a good show though. We're going to talk about Meta, and with our big story segment, and talk about how Mark has basically said he's got a new AI BFF pitch. Basically, Zuckerberg says lonely users can now just talk to bots. Critics call it the loneliness economy. And brands built on community, well, suddenly they've got trust issues, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Then we'll talk about how making movies local again, Mala. Trump actually floats the idea of, love that. Anyway, 100% tariff on films with foreign accents. And in the basically, President Trump has declared Hollywood on life support and ordered his trade squad to draft a 100% tariff on any film shot beyond U.S. borders. And we'll talk about the dummery of that. We'll talk about the TikTok timeout, or Virginia is going to put kids on a 60-minute scroll diet, tight but clever. And basically, here we go. Governor Glenn Youngkin has just inked the Consumer Data Protection Act, which is going to make it for 16-year-olds a hard 1-hour daily cap on social apps. We'll talk about the dummery of that. We'll get to our winners and losers segment, where I'm going to, just glow a little bit about Warren Buffett as he announces his retirement as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. Joe is going to basically talk about the winner that is Lego. I don't know. Can I read?
Or logo.
Yeah, or logo. Logo of Lego. I don't know. Anyway, then we'll get to our rants and raves, where I'm going to rant a little bit about the meme presidency and the social media account that is the White House. And Joe is going to rave a bit about Disney and Abu Dhabi. Whenever I say Abu Dhabi, I always think it's the Flintstones, right? It's Abu Dhabi Doo. I'm sorry. I'm still a little punchy from my trip. It's got to be one
of those episodes.
Yeah, I'm punchy from my trip. Absolutely. There we go.
All right. Sounds like a great episode.
It should be. It should be good. Anyway, so let's get to our first story here, which is coming to us courtesy of 404 Media. Again, just hats off to 404 for some great stuff here. The headline: Mark Zuckerberg thinks you don't have enough friends, and his chatbots are the answer. The CEO of Meta says the average American has fewer than 3 friends, fewer than 3 people, and they would consider friends, and the average person has a demand for a meaningfully more. Mark, in his fashionable Meta glasses there that seem to be wearing him rather than him wearing that. So anyway, in a newly released podcast, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg says society just hasn't found the value in AI girlfriends and therapists quite yet. Apparently clueless that his own company hosts deceptive and harmful AI companion on its own platform. Well, basically, they talked about this, and Zuckerberg really just said, that they're going to talk about how it's going to start to offer up AI companions, AI friends for people on Facebook. And I don't know. It basically, this interview was really weird and cringy. I don't know what you thought about it, but basically, as Zuckerberg said, the embodiment of these things is still pretty weak. You're open to it, and it's just an image of the therapist or the person you're talking to. Sometimes there's a very rough animation, but it's not an embodiment. And he seems to think that if we have an embodiment of a virtual friend on social media, that's where we're going to get our companionship from. Now, I have lots of thoughts on this, but I would love to get your take on this. What say you to virtual friends on Facebook?
Okay, I have many thoughts, as you do. The first thing I want to say is if you read this article, if you listen to a lot of what Mark Zuckerberg has to say, and this is not just Meta AI, this seems to be the AI companies in general are spending way too few dollars in investment on safety. We've said this before, but we have no idea what we're getting into. They're launching you read this, he's just talking about we want to do good, we want to build helpful products. They're treating these friendship loneliness type tools are supposed to help loneliness just like any other product. Like I would buy a Lego or go to Disney's Disney World or something like that, which is it's significantly different when you're talking about, oh, you want friends or you want to cure your loneliness or depression or whatever, and we're going to start throwing robots at you. And you know what? It's absolutely going to happen. I mean, you're seeing like the one of the biggest online industries that nobody talks about is all these little AI chatbots that are started up to fulfill somebody's relationship with a non-human being,
right?
Or that whatever that gap is that they have in their life. It's funny. I don't know what the name of the movie is. Maybe you do, but there's a movie on Netflix right now that Tina Fey's in, and I just saw Steve Carell, I think, is in it as well. And there's just a clip of Tina Fey talking about, all I want to do is I want to go back to my room, lay in my bed, and scroll on my phone until the internet is done. Or like I think that's what this leads to. It leads to as many waking moments as possible. Meta wants you to be online, and whatever Zuckerberg wants to talk about filling that gap, they're going to do. And it concerns me because nobody's out there saying, okay, what's the downside of this? Not being out with other people in public, where in 5 years or 7 years, we're gonna have to start paying real people to be part of our lives.
Sure. Yeah.
Or I don't know. I guess I have no doubt that Zuckerberg's wish will happen. Like Meta AI will do this along with 6 or 7 other companies, and it scares the crap out of me at the same time.
So first of all, fun fact is the Four Seasons is the show.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you.
Did
you watch that? I haven't. I'm not going to.
Well, I saw the original, right? So for those of you who are old enough to remember, the Four Seasons was actually a movie directed by Alan Alda, who also has a guest starring role in this miniseries, I guess. And it's like Alan Alda, Carol Burnett, and some other people. Rita Moreno is in it. Anyway, it's a very funny movie, and now it's apparently it's on my queue to watch. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. The lack of self-awareness here from Mark in this, what I guess that's what baffles me the most is that there is either a complete lack of self-awareness of his own contribution to the loneliness of young people today with the creation that he made called Facebook, or he's willfully ignoring it. And so basically, either way, a pox on his communications team, whoever's handling his PR and communications and comms and strategy there is just like falling down on the job. Because it's you just listen to this and go, do you not even acknowledge that the platform you have created is what has contributed to so much of the image problem that young people have with themselves, the loneliness problem that have, the isolation that so many people feel, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's, all of social media really has contributed to so much of it. And it's basically because none of us were ever trained on how to use social media. And so we all sort of learned how to use it, willy-nilly, organically, sort of trial and error. And, the unintended consequences of that have sort of reared their head, and we now see it when it goes unchecked. And here we go again. Now it's AI. It's interesting because Mark has said in other interviews, I don't think he talks about it in this one, but he's talked about in other interviews how he doesn't even really see Facebook as a place where friends connect anymore. It's really just a content consumption network. And you can see that. You can see it. I mean,
absolutely true.
My Facebook now is maybe 10% of friends, most of the Facebook, and I've tried hard to shape my feed, but now it's, it's news from this site. It's, things you might like. It's much more of a for you page now than it used to be, even without the paid ads, right? It's mostly like, this, viral thing or that viral thing that you don't subscribe to, but it's going to be stuck in there for you. And then intermixed with a few of the friends that you interact with most. And so it's very quickly becoming just a broadcast network of content, not having anything to do with your collection of friends, except maybe where you engage via private group, right? The private groups thing, which is mostly what I do, honestly, is engage in private groups on Facebook. So it's fascinating that there's this lack of self-awareness there that he has when saying that people are lonely, and that he's going to supplement that by basically building something else that's sort of, just an expansion of the loneliness that he himself has created. And so I do I think it'll work? As you were saying, yeah, it's coming. It's definitely coming. I question whether or not at some point, it feels to me, I have this sort of gut feel. I have no data to base this on, but I have this gut feel that at some point in the next 6 to 9 months, there's going to be something that happens that gives us a major pushback on all of this element of AI. I'm struck by last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about the use cases. Remember, we had that article from Search Engine Watch or Search Engine, one of the search engine magazines, and they talked about the top use cases for AI, and marketing was like 60th or something.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was the 1, 2, and 3 were like my companion, a therapist, and number 3 was like setting life goals. And it's like, this is how people are using ChatGPT. And fine, great, wonderful. It's getting organized and figuring out your life goals and using it as an organizational tool and using it as a companion. And we've talked about some of the success stories with it for people with Alzheimer's and people with, that are in loneliness situations, especially older people. All of that is wonderful. But to your point, we're not thinking about the safety and the sort of integration of that at all at the moment. It is all about how do we move faster and break things, and something I think is going to break.
What I don't, and again, I agree with you, but what I don't know for sure is how this really affects humanity. Because if you look at,
I don't think any of us do. I don't think any of us really do.
And no, but and yeah, these companies are just trying to build a profitable product.
Of course,
here.
yeah.
But if you look at the people, I forgot the name of people that live like longer than, it's not like blue ocean people or whatever, the people that live longer than anyone else. When you look around the world, they're generally 2 things. They're active in some way. They're always moving around doing something, and they have a very close community of people around them. And because you can go, they eat all sorts of things. It's not necessarily what they eat, it's what they do that makes the difference, that people live longer and they feel better about their lives and they feel like they're doing something. Sure. I don't know if you take out a human being from that scenario and you plug in an AI being, if that changes. That's what I'm curious about. Like, if you like, is this a good cure for loneliness, for people's mental and physical well-being? I'm going to say no, because I want it to be no, but I don't know if that's true or not. And that's what we don't have the data on it. Like, if it really is going to help humanity,
I think
in some of these cases.
I think one of the things that we have to be able to do is hold both of those truths in our head at the same time. In other words, it might be good for humanity in terms of solving the loneliness problem, right? However, what are the unintended consequences of that? In other words, social media, basically in the early days, the promise of social media was it was going to democratize people's voices. And that basically, that's the reason we called it social media, right? It was because people could democratize their opinions and basically creating crowdsourcing of events, whether it was covering events, disasters, communication, basically communicating with each other was all going to be democratized through social media. Therefore, great truths would emerge, communities would emerge, all of these things would emerge. And what happened was, yes, that did happen, right? We did start to see that news outlets became, a little antiquated, because you could basically cover the news right there with a phone and basically live stream it and all that. All of that it did democratize the media. However, there was all these other unintended consequences that came out of that as well that nobody had any idea of at the time, right? And so both things can be true. It could solve loneliness, but it could also cause something else to happen that we just don't even know what's going to happen yet. So that's the challenge, I think, is that, and that's what you hope people, like Sam Altman and the people who are furthering AI are thinking about. And to your point, they're quickly deprecating down those thinking studios or people or teams or whatever they want to call. And I think that's the real danger here is that we're not thinking about it, right? In other words, and they get asked all the time, right? These AI CEOs, and leaders in the industry, they get asked, what's going to happen? And they're all like, well, this is the dumbest AI you're ever going to use. And this is, we're getting smarter and we're close to AGI. And tomorrow it's going to be, companionships and it'll be able to do everything that a human can do. It's like, wow, what are the implications of that? I don't know. We'll figure it out. Yeah. And it's like, it's just so maddening.
Well, kudos to, I was listening to the artificial intelligence podcast.
Oh, well, Paul has been thinking about this for a while.
But they were talking about how at least OpenAI, when they had the personality of their update, they had some issues with the last ChatGPT update, and they were very transparent about here's what we did, here's what happened. They came out within 5 days and actually are talking to people, and they talked about how they have to invest more in safety, even though they're not investing enough. But nobody else is doing that. Like nobody's going out and saying like we're really concerned about this. You are in a moment of no regulation needed.
That's right.
You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry probably for at least a year and a half, maybe 3.5 years about ever worrying about any safety precautions on this thing, because whatever happens,
great point.
And they're not going to do it themselves because they're going to feel like better people.
Yeah. Right.
So
that's absolutely the truth.
Just be very careful.
It's absolutely the truth. Yeah.
Fun. Yes, that's great. Good start to the show.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. This.
All right. Hey, well, speaking of which, let's pay a couple of our bills so that we can keep this show on the air.
Why not?
You don't become the world's most valuable women's sports franchise by accident. Angel City Football Club did it with a little help from HubSpot. When they started, data was housed across multiple systems. HubSpot unified their website, their email marketing, and fan experience into one platform. This allowed their small team of 3 to build an entire website in just 3 days. The results? Nearly 350 new signups a week and 300% database growth in just 2 years. You want to kick off some great marketing? Visit HubSpot.com to hear how HubSpot can help you grow better. Am I talking too loud? Wait a minute. That's a cool podcast you should listen to. That's right, Talking Too Loud, hosted by Chris Savage and brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. In this podcast, Chris Savage, Wistia's CEO and loudest talker, takes you inside the minds of entrepreneurs as they share a hilarious and informative and most challenging aspects of building more human brands. A recent episode featured the founders of Cast Magic, a company leveraging AI to reimagine content workflows. It's wonderfully loud. You can follow Talking Too Loud wherever you follow your favorite podcasts.
I think we should rename our show.
Okay.
I think we should rename our show to Talking Too Long. I think it fits.
Talking too long.
Because literally, if we were just covering the news, we could do this show in 5 minutes. We really could.
It's true.
But we talk about other things.
Yeah.
That nobody cares about.
And nothing useful. That's for sure. I mean,
you know what? It's interesting. Sometimes we think about what we're here to do on Earth and our purpose for this little show that we have. And I once thought that we were.
That's a hell of a hole you go down into, my friend. That's. I'm just going to say that.
I really did believe at one point that we were supposed to help marketers and content creators do more, be better,
There's plenty
find
of
growth.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe we're here to waste people's time and slightly entertain them.
That's 100%. I think that's it. I think
about the woes in life.
Yes.
Right? Do we do that?
That's right. I'm hopefully it's and basically to give them a couple of one-liners for their dinner conversation. There you go.
Yeah, because I think that after listening to this show, somebody could at the dinner table talk all about how this
Let me just tell you what these two chuckheads today on these podcasts,
it's going to be solved.
You know,
is anybody fact checking this show?
I
don't know.
No.
We don't have the resources for fact checking. You're going to have to make up your own mind.
That's right. That's right. That's right. You're just going to have to make up your own mind.
Just going to have to make up your mind. All right. This next one, I really want your take on because you're
the
Hollywood guy.
We've got, this is an interesting story and basically coming out just this week. So basically what we have here is something from the Morning Brew, but there's a number of places that are covering this. Of course, Trump wants to put a tariff on foreign made movies. He posted on Truth Social yesterday, said he would talk directly with Hollywood officials to see if they were happy with his proposals to put a tariff on foreign-made films entering the U.S. In the meantime, industry players shared the reactions. And let's just put it this way. No, they're not that happy. Anyway, on Sunday, basically, Trump announced the tariff in Truth Social post, lamenting the dying U.S. movie industry and saying foreign countries' tax incentives for film companies amounted to a national security threat. Sigh. Anyway, in response, big entertainment stocks like Netflix, Disney, Warner Brothers, Discovery, Paramount, and Comcast saw sharp declines yesterday before stabilizing by the end of the trading session because, of course, why not? Investors thought Trump's plan spelled trouble for the film and TV industry. Netflix, for instance, produces an estimated 75% of its total content internationally. The president has a point, says the Morning Brew. From 21 to 24, film and TV production spending in the U.S. dropped 28%, according to research firm ProdPro. Tax incentives and lower label costs has attracted the industry to Canada and overseas to countries like Australia and parts of the U.K. Last year, about 2/3 of the money in the U.K. film industry earned came from U.S. studios and streaming platforms. Los Angeles just wrapped its worst year in 3 decades for on-location filming in the city, aside from 2020. By the way, that the president doesn't have a point with any of that because, well, we'll get into it. But anyway, so it basically, the article just wraps up very quickly there. Yes, I have it. Do you want me to just launch into my take here? Or
I saw this. I wanted you to cover it because you are our resident Hollywood insider. But the one thing that I did hear that we didn't report on, and I don't know if this is true, that the president met with a group of actors led by John Voight and Mel Gibson.
Right.
And that helped him with his decision.
Yeah.
Here's my question. By the way, I love both those gentlemen as actors, but why do we go to the Association of Nut Jobs to get our idea of what we need to do about something?
Well,
why
the question
does this always happen?
My friend, with the
why
current
can't we go to a reasonable group of people that have some expertise in this area, and then we can start making, and why are we even talking about this? Okay. That said, yes, Robert, do these proposed tariffs on Hollywood make any sense at all? Go.
No, they do not. They absolutely do not. They don't even, it's not even that they don't make sense from a business strategy standpoint. They don't even make sense from a observation of reality sense. Because the question that comes up is, what is it you're going to tariff, right? What is it that what would you actually put the tax on? You know, when Netflix decides to fund the production of a movie in China or in the UK or in Canada, they set up a Canadian corporation, or they set up a something in the UK to basically create the actual movie. Then they create and fund the movie, and then they basically bring it here, right? There's no money exchanged hands between an importer and exporter. It's
So serious question. Yes, I agree with that. So let's just say that I have a movie idea. I'm an American company, and then I'm going to shoot that in, let's just say, Greenland.
That's right.
Whatever. I'm going to shoot it in Greenland.
Yeah.
I shoot it all in Greenland. I create an LLC over there or whatever, incorporate, do all the things that you just said.
Yep.
And then I'm going to distribute that movie in the United States. Could that be when the tariffs, because you made it outside. So if you want to distribute it inside, could you increase the taxes there? Which is not really a tariff then.
Right. But what do you?
But
What,
it
I
would
mean,
be something else. It
you
would be
mean
a,
you
it would
mean
be a
basically
penalty.
the what is it you're tariffing, right? I mean, in the
You'd
distribution
have to
deals,
charge them more money to. I don't know. I was
who
just.
are you
I
charging?
don't know. I
Who
don't
are you
know.
charging? That's the question. Like when a movie gets distributed, the deal that gets made with if we're talking completely theatrical release here,
Yeah,
like
let's
forget about
talk about
streaming
that.
for just a second, which gets it even more complicated. But thinking about theatrical releases, when you make a distribution deal with AMC or some movie chain, basically the distribution deal is, hey, you get this, we'll ship you, at one point, I mean, this is also going completely digital these days, but at one point it was literally, we'll ship you reels of film and you'll show it in your, you have a special, responsibility to show it 7 times a day, 6 times a day, whatever it is, basically, and you'll make money from it and basically pay us the royalty on being able to do that. Right. So but are you tariffing then are you adding a tax to the, I don't even know. It baffles me, right? Like, how would you even assess that? There's no way. Here's the equivalent. I create a blog. I'm going to create a new blog, and I'm going to create my new blog, and I'm going to have a bunch of people in the UK, a website company in the UK, build it for me. They're going to build me this awesome blog, but I made that blog not in the US, and I paid the UK people to do that. Are you suggesting that if I do that, I have to pay a tax on the money that I would have spent for people in the UK to make that blog? And no, I mean, it's just, it defies any kind of logic about what would actually happen. It's as stupid as his sort of comment about reopening Alcatraz. I mean, it's just, which, by the way, the rumor is that he was watching literally the Nick Cage, The Rock movie and basically said, hey, we should reopen Alcatraz. It's just baffling.
By the way, you have to understand the amount of resources and money it would take to fix that place up. You'd basically have to tear the whole thing down and restart it if you did. And
right.
He doesn't even like San Francisco. Like, what? He hates it. What? Maybe that's why he wants to send everybody to San Francisco.
It's a national park. I mean, the greatest one was with basically when the Daily Show was covering it, and he said basically he's like they reached out to the museum, the Alcatraz National Park Museum, for a comment, and they had no comment. It's like, of course they didn't have a comment. They don't know anything about prisons. They're docents. they're basically,
they don't even have no idea.
They're handing out brochures basically to take your tour of the museum that is Alcatraz. Anyway,
well,
it's all just ridiculous.
Well, just back to the story idea here, the tariff and Trump on Hollywood. It leads back, and I'm not going to steal your thunder for what you're talking about later, but it's a significant pattern of bringing up something that a regular folk know about, putting a spin on it, getting people riled up. There was the whole thing with the Pope wearing, or with Trump wearing the pontiff's,
the Pope
social
outfit,
media post that went out.
Yep.
I heard so many people complain about that. So many people like, oh, I can't believe it. I'm a Catholic and this is obscene, and I can't. You know what? It's all smoke and mirrors, folks.
No, it's clown show.
That's the whole show that we're getting. While at the same time, there's like legitimately horrible things happening.
Exactly.
We are turning into the bad guys of the world.
Yep.
While we're like looking at, oh my God, we're gonna put tariffs on Hollywood. It's just so ridiculous.
It just keeps everything. It keeps the meaningful stuff out of the headlines because. And by the way, and this will actually be part of my rant. I absolutely lay this at the feet of mainstream media right now, because every one of these interviews that are getting done, even the ones that have sort of been, ooh, this interview was, kind of, a little controversial, with Trump, and this, his interview that this happened this weekend was, she dug a little deep. It's like, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. They still let him get away with all of this stuff. And it's like, mainstream media is doing themselves absolutely no favors here by not holding anybody's feet to the fire and being distracted with this clickbaity bullshit.
There's no, let's be honest, there's no leadership on the other side. There's
None. Zero.
not even the other side. There's no one that has a big enough platform that is influential enough out there that's stepping up and saying, what are we doing here?
That's right.
And I don't know who that is or who that should be, but it's definitely not these two chuckleheads. We're trying here, folks.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And all we're doing is sort of calling balls and strikes, right? I mean, it's just, it's not even about taking a side, right? I mean, you can, look, the Morning Brew thing makes it a point to say, and Trump has a point with his whole, with the fact that production is down. Yes, 100%. The amount, and by the way, California 100% realizes this. Gavin Newsom understands this. The mayor of LA understands this. Everybody in Southern California understands that right now it's challenging to make content in Southern California like it used to with Hollywood because the costs are so high. And there are plenty of bills on the thing to make tax breaks more lucrative, et cetera, et cetera. This has been happening for 20 years. 10 years ago it was Georgia. Right. Georgia put all kinds of tax breaks in. So all these movies started getting shot in Atlanta and in Georgia because there was all these tax breaks for feature films. That's why you saw so many movies get produced in Georgia. Cleveland, same thing. Canada, same thing. All of this, was around providing the incentives for Hollywood producers and movie companies to make their content in other places where it was just cheaper, because it's cheaper to fly the actors to a location than it is to actually do it in a Hollywood sound studio. And that's been a problem for 20, 30 years that LA has recognized. And so to then take that and go, okay, now we're going to put tariffs on China or Taiwan or Australia because they're making their own films that Netflix is then purchasing the rights to. It's just
well, the other dumb thing is let's just say that there was something to tariff. Then you've got Gavin Newsom coming out and going to Trump and saying, hey, we want a $7.5 billion tax reduction or tax credits for anybody that films in California. You're going to end up spending more money. You're not going to get any revenue from it because then you're going to have, it's like, this is dumb.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's not, it
doesn't help. Even if it were actually possible, it wouldn't help anybody.
It's like you got 1,000 problems, 1,000 things broken in the house, and everything requires a hammer.
Right.
It's like you've only got one way to fix every problem that's happened in the United States for 100 years: a tariff.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Anyway, on a lighter note.
All right. Very quickly here, let's cover this bill that just got signed in Virginia, because it is actually fairly interesting here. Governor Youngkin signs law restricting social media to 1 hour a day for kids under 16. He signed the Consumer Data Protection Act in Virginia into new law, cracking down on the amount of time that young people can spend scrolling on social media. The measure, which had bipartisan support in the state's General Assembly, bans kids under 16 from using social media for more than 1 hour every day. It also calls for a neutral approach to asking someone's age when they create an account, and it says there has to be a way to accurately verify a young person's age. The bill says companies can't use the age information for anything else and allows parents to increase or decrease the daily 1 hour limit. The law excludes platforms that are mainly used for email or direct messaging, streaming services, and news sites. So I'm going to read that again. It excludes platforms that are mainly used for email, direct messaging, streaming services, and news sites, which means TikTok is not part of it.
So what is part of it? Instagram?
I don't know. I don't really know.
So it's a protection act that really doesn't govern anything,
right? I mean, this might be we really are in the dumber here. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't even know if there's anything to say here, because as soon as you go, oh, it's really built for Facebook. I mean, is it Facebook or is it Instagram or is it because it's not TikTok. I mean, I would think TikTok is a streaming service, right? I mean, unless they don't qualify TikTok or YouTube as a streaming service, and they say basically streaming services means Netflix. I mean, I don't know. And WhatsApp isn't covered here because that's direct messaging for sure. Snapchat wouldn't be covered, which is where the young people are spending their time.
Well, I obviously because a young person can't say how old they are outside of just saying it. They don't have a passport. They don't have an ID. They don't have, I mean, so how would you most effectively do it? You have to do it where somebody can't set up an account without an adult ID of some kind, and then that adult ID can bestow privileges on the kid.
Right.
Which still gets complicated.
Right. Of course. And then you've got the whole okay, well, maybe parents can actually adjust the time that's allowed. And so, I mean, let's just be frank. The kids probably know better how to do that than the parents do.
Yeah, that's the issue. I'm all for, I mean, we've talked about it. I'm all for any kinds of regulations on helping kids get off social media. I just don't, to your point, I don't think this is going to do anything.
No, I mean, not until you have
reasonable.
Not until you have the identity problem solved, right? Which is, we've talked about numerous times. We haven't talked about it in a while, but we've talked about it numerous times on this show, where the way to solve this would be with a privacy bill that basically forces you to actually truly and verifiably identify yourself for every social media account that you have. And there are problems with that. Yes, I understand, with reporters and with whistleblowers, but you could make exceptions for that. But the idea would be, if you could solve the identity problem, where on any social media platform you have to be verifiably identified, well, then you could say, look, you're not allowed on social media until you're 16 years old, or you're not allowed on, you can't until you can properly ID yourself. It wouldn't eliminate it for sure, but it would mitigate it quite a bit. That the identity problem is the challenge. That's the whole thing.
Well, they can all feel proud that they've done something.
Yeah,
I'm sure that there was a signing. There was a signing, and there was a diverse group of people behind that signing, and they all clapped when it was signed.
Yes.
Good for all.
Pens were handed out. Many pens were handed out, I'm sure.
Yeah. Let's do that.
All right. Good. Let's get to our winners and losers, where Joe and I pick a winner from the last week of marketing or a loser from the last week of marketing. Would you like to go first with your winner? With logo?
Mine is very, very quick with logo.
Yeah.
So this is from The Athletic. LEGO built full-size F1 cars for the Miami GP Drivers Parade.
That's cool.
And here's how they did it. And if you read the quotes from the drivers, they were so excited to ride in a LEGO. I mean, by the way, this was some undertaking that they had to do to engineering wise figure out how you take basically steel under construction and then add Legos and glue on top of it,
right,
and actually get the thing to run
without falling apart. Yeah,
without falling apart. I guess there was a lot of Lego debris that was left there. They hadn't ever, when they went around.
Isn't there always a lot of Lego debris?
Yes, there
you
always
step on them when you're a parent.
Don't step on the track.
Yeah,
don't step on the track. Yeah. But I just think this is a really good feel-good story. I guess in general, the different driver manufacturers of these cars, they don't want to give out their plans on how their cars look and whatever, but they gladly did that for Lego and gave it to their engineers so they could build full replicas of these cars. And I just think it's a good feel-good story, and what's not to like about it. And then, of course, from a marketing, it's a marketing winner for me, because you got to believe, I mean, got great story, great pickup. Everybody's talking about it. Was in Morning Brew, the whole thing, talking about how Lego's doing this good deed, if you will. I'm sure they paid for it, but man, what a marketing opportunity. And it was great that if you talk to, when you look at the quotes from their engineers, how happy they were to work on this exciting project. I mean, come on.
Yes,
it's pretty good stuff. So it's a good feel-good story, and otherwise an episode of buffoonery. That's my take on it.
I think it's lovely. Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, Lego is always doing genius things with their marketing, and creating this kind of, it's content, right? This is really a content. It's an experience. It's, we've talked so often about how Lego just has mastered this.
It's another way that Lego can build a moat around its competition.
Exactly.
Lego can do these kinds of things. Lego does a print magazine. Lego does events, experiential events around the world. They have Lego lands. They're doing things to separate their brand that other brands like them aren't doing.
That's right.
And we can all learn from that to differentiate ourselves. But there you go. What do you got?
I love it. I'm going to just, a winner I'm picking this week. So the amazing Warren Buffett this week, basically
the Oracle himself,
the Oracle of Omaha, has decided he's going to retire as CEO. He's going to stay on as chairman, apparently, but has elevated one of his main lieutenants to become CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. And I just wanted to sort of throw out the love to Warren Buffett. And the reason why is because in today's world, it is so rare to find someone, at the level of Warren Buffett who exhibits the kind of kindness, basically true conservatism, true moving slow. Warren Buffett never, ever got wrapped around the axle of speed as a defining factor of what they did. It was always move slow and at a considered pace. Even in the world of the internet, he was famously late to internet investing. He was, in many ways late to almost everything. He didn't get wrapped up in the first mover advantage. He didn't get wrapped up in all of that. He basically, fundamentals was his core message. His letters every year, I'm speaking about him in the past, and he's certainly, very much alive, but the idea, his letters every year were always beautifully written, but also incredibly smart, and just a huge influence on the world of true value investing, and true value of businesses, as focused on doing good in the world, but also being kind in the world and moving slow in the world. And it's just something that's so lacking today. It's just, you would hope that he wasn't the exception, but of course he is the exception. And I think the very much due, all of these luminaries, Jamie Dimon and Bill Gates and all these people are just, coming out and talking about how influential he was to all of them. And it's not lost on me, by the way, that Bill Gates this week as well has announced that he's going to give away $200 billion and basically close down his foundation by the year 2045. I'm sure that has everything to do with his influence from Warren Buffett. So anyway, the hats off to the winner, the Oracle of Omaha, and somebody I have long looked up to and followed and basically read and really look up to. So yeah, big winner here.
There's a couple things on that one. First of all, I don't know if you saw this, but at the meeting, Warren was just talking about influences and whatever, and he said, "Is Tim Cook here from Apple, CEO of Apple?" Tim's there at the meeting along with thousands of others. People raises his hands, and he said, "Tim has made more money for Berkshire Hathaway investors than I have." Like, he really went out of his way to say, I love how he deflects.
Oh, of course. I mean,
and always says this person or Charlie Munger when he was live and all those other things. That I just love that whole.
If you want some treats, go back and look at some of the old Berkshire Hathaway meetings with him and the investor meetings with him and Charlie Munger. Sort of, I mean, it's two old guys, right? It's two old guys bantering among themselves, but it's very funny, very subtle, very low key, the two of them they never took themselves too seriously, but they also knew exactly what they were doing. And that it was it's really a lost, I think, in many ways, a lost way of operating. And, and it's something I want to just sort of elevate.
No, I like it. I mean, I learned the whole idea of a moat principle around a business from Warren Buffett. It's
Yeah.
like, does the business itself have a moat?
That's
And we
right.
talk about that in content marketing. Can you
Yep.
build an audience, and you have an opportunity to build a moat around what you're doing? We just talked about it with Lego. So
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
many good things. And the idea of zooming out. Like,
Yeah.
he'll talk about, if you investing in stocks in the short term is a terrible idea. But if you keep zooming out year, and then you look at the patterns over a long period of time, you understand that 6 months doesn't matter.
I used to
6
use
years might not matter. 16 years does matter. Those types of things.
I used to use in one of my workshops, because his investor letter was always sort of a classic thing to read every year, where he talked about this. And in one of them, I referenced it because of the content of it, the smartness of the content, because most investor letters from investment firms are, the synergies of the paradigm shifting investment was helping us to realize the gains while minimizing the losses. And, it reads like like an S corp, sort of, or an S listing and that sort of thing, for investors. And basically Warren Buffett's investor letter was, and the one that I referenced was where they got out of an investment. And basically they got out of the investment with this company because they didn't want to be associated with this company anymore. And he, instead of saying, we divested ourselves of the thing, blah, 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 he basically said, what we found was our relationship with this company was like a country Western song. We liked you a lot better before we knew you. So that's so typically
good.
Warren Buffett. Yeah.
So good.
Good. Anyway.
Awesome.
All right. On to our last segment here, which of course is our rants and raves, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like, like we just drafted Shedeur Sanders, or making us feel like we have skipped the draft altogether. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
Yeah. Really quickly.
Okay.
Just kudos, sort of. Kudos to Walt Disney for their building. I think it's their 7th park in Abu Dhabi, like you like to say. And the reason why I want to throw that out, and I know that the Disney parks is a huge business line for them and continues to be really profitable. But I wanted to call this out because I really do think, and we talked about a lot of this with loneliness and being online all the time, there is going to be this huge wave of experiential events. I think we're already seeing it. We know if you look at what's going on with Gen Z and younger millennials, going to events and sporting events and concerts are so critical to their social lives and how they feel about themselves, and getting to actually meet friends and others. And I think that this deal is part of that. I think it's a precursor to, we have to have more opportunities for people to go places and do things and experience life outside of a tablet or a smartphone. And I just think it's a smart move. It's probably, I'm sure they're getting some helpful investment from some government people at the same time to do this, but kudos to them. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
All right. Well, I want to rant a little bit about the social media account of the White House, and basically the White House sort of social media content strategy, right? Because one of the things, I wrote a post about this a long time ago, which was, I think I called it the dark side of content marketing, because we often assume that, hey, content marketing, it's engaging, wonderful, valuable content created to engage customers and help them feel better about, us. And, we always talk about the positive, but there is, of course, a dark side to it as well. And we used to talk about the dark side of content marketing, such as, we talked about oil companies that used to set up sort of, propaganda websites to talk about how energy and oil and all that kind of stuff. And it was that, that was the definition of dark. Well, the White House has taken it really to another level. I mean, basically, we should just admit now that the West Wing and their social media account has stopped thinking about governing, and basically they're auditioning for the TikTok or Facebook For You page. They've rolled out an entire site, wh.gov, which is basically a Drooge cosplay, basically and basically apparently now it takes an entire taxpayer-funded comm shop to compete with one sweaty aggregator in a fedora. Drooge Report is basically himself laughing and quoting and saying it takes an entire West Wing to compete with Druge, which is when you're arguing online and having a beef with Matt Druge, you know you've reached a new low. But then again, why stop there? You can turn immigration policy into a viral kink. I mean, cue up. They're doing ASMR videos where soft whispers and clinking handcuffs of immigrants getting handcuffed by ICE. Let's call that a vibe. There's the Saturday morning cartoon, the sobbing woman getting snatched up by ICE. And if that wasn't edgy enough, well, let's borrow the current meme going live right now on TikTok's 100 dudes versus a gorilla meme. Well, let's use that meme to flex deportation stats, because nothing says leader of the free world like a National Geographic fanfic. Even more spectacular, which I found just interesting. Now the media or that whole account has planted mugshot posters of migrants on the South Lawn, strategically placed so all the cable news stand-ups get photobombed by fear porn. Then they blasted out all of this, the selfie, like we talked about on the show earlier, of Pope Trump merely days before the papal conclave, and it basically turned all this mourning from the Vatican into clickbait. And then there's also all of the people that they're putting on their social media, all these sort of, celebrities that they now have running different departments. Basically you've got the transportation secretary. He's not like a logistics guy. No, he's a reality TV lumberjack. And basically you've got all of this stuff happening, in their social media account, in their media strategy, in their content strategy, sort of overall, basically with some level of, they haven't found someone that they can't be mean to and not feel better about it. It is really just awful. It's just an awful, awful, mean thing. And that's not taking sides on policy. That's not taking a liberal versus conservative stance. That is not taking anything else other than it's just awful. It's just awful, awful content that they somehow feel like is funny or engaging or good, and it sort of helps their brand. And I just find it sort of just disgusting. So I wanted to rant about it.
No, I mean, it is relevant because we do talk about content and communications, and
it's their content strategy.
The White House social media strategy is
flood the zone with horrible stuff. Yep.
Well, the thing that I'm having trouble grappling with is that we're presenting America as the bad guys, and we've always done a lot of things as United States of America. Like, don't think that we don't know. We got into wars we shouldn't be in, and we've hurt people that we should never been involved with. There's been some horrible things, but we are out in front of all that right now, even on the social media account, saying we're hating on everybody. We're going to hate on everybody, whether you're a friend or foe, or there's a couple countries excluded for some reason in this, which I can't understand. But most every other country and type of person we will crap on, and that's what we're in right now.
It's just, I don't even. From a policy perspective, it's not even, for me, it's not even about a policy. Like what's the right policy on tariffs? What's the right policy on immigration? What's the right policy on taxes? What's the right policy on cutting Medicare? What's the right policy on immigration status or anything like that? Those are all issues that we could debate. We could talk about, we could figure out what the right answers are. We could figure out what good optimal answers are, where we test things that are even extreme. We test the other extreme and we see which one works and we figure it all out and all of that kind of stuff. But that's all to the side when you look at what's happening with their content strategy, which in every instance, when I've talked to clients, I said that basically the content strategy you put out into the world, and we've talked about this so many times with companies, whether it be Budweiser or whether it be, Ben and Jerry's, or we talk about, all of these REI, Patagonia, all of these companies that sort of take a purpose-driven idea to their content strategy and marketing and live and die, Nike, live and die by the good and the bad of making people angry or making people feel something about what they're doing with their content marketing. And we talk about the responsibility there and the implications of all of that from a marketing perspective. And when you see something like this, where they're purposely taking a content strategy that is just at its soul mean, hurtful, and basically just a little bit vile, you go, it's not about policy anymore. It is literally not about policy. It is literally about trying to make people angry. And that's just wrong. It's just wrong.
I mean, seriously, there's somebody running this content strategy.
There's a guy that's been named. He's the social media sort of guy for the Trump administration. I forget his name, and I'm not going to even say it if I knew it. So
isn't the goal distraction?
Totally.
But I'm just saying that there is a goal. They're not just willy-nilly put crap out there. They're like, what can make the people the most distracted about things that are going on in the world? And that's what it
I wouldn't even
like.
say that. I wonder, it's a question. I don't have a good answer for this, but my question is, I wonder if it's actually distraction as the goal or just attention as the goal, because
attention of any kind.
Attention of any kind is, Trump has always operated from all publicity is good publicity.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if it's bad or negative or whatever. You claim the win, you claim, a victory, and all attention is good attention. And so it doesn't really matter, right? At that point, the goal is to get attention, and they are, arguably, because I'm ranting about it, they're getting it. I just think it makes it very hard for me to take anybody seriously when they start to argue policy about what this administration is doing, because I can't take any policy basically decision or any thorough sort of look at what we should be doing in varying topics any seriously because of what they're doing over on the right-hand side, because the content strategy just doesn't match.
The policy decisions and the dismantling of our culture is happening underneath this.
Yep.
That's not the role of what's going on at WH right now.
That's right.
The role, I think you're right. Distraction, attention, get everybody to look in all these different ways while the underpinnings of how we built our country are being taken apart.
That's right. So, yep. There you go.
That's what I believe. So there we go. Anyways, I think another feel good episode.
Yeah.
I think that's another episode that people can go on driving. I know you're driving in your car, you're mowing your lawn, or you're running, you're feeling good.
You feeling good?
It's okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be a brighter day. It's going to be a better tomorrow. Robert and Joe believe that.
We should launch into the REM song. This is the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
Yeah, just so if you want to feel good, that we've talked about this. If you want something to feel good, go watch the Yacht Rock documentary.
Totally.
Or listen to a little bit more Michael McDonald, because you can never have too much Michael McDonald in your life.
You cannot. That is a great way to end this show. Yes, absolutely.
What do you got going on?
I got work. I'm headed out of town, so next week we'll be live, but I will be remote for that, Priest, because I will be out at my my annual mastermind with a bunch of investors and really smart people, and I try and keep up. But other than that, just working. How about you?
On Monday, finally, we have our 100 holes of golf for Orange Effect Foundation. Woo-hoo! I will be golfing with my partner, James Kozak, 100 holes. We have another 30 golfers out there that are golfing 100 holes, and we are really close to our number. We were going for $50,000. Right now, as we speak, we're at 46,000. So I think we're going to make it there. If anybody wants to support any of the golfers, go to 100holes.info. And you'll go right to the page. What are you on? What?
No, I
made a short link. 100holes.info.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's my inner 17-year-old just erupted again. So it's like, sorry. All right. Yeah.
You got to get your head out of the gutter. This all goes to helping kids who need speech therapy and their families cannot support it. It's very, very important. Thank you to all those who supported us. But that's all I'll be doing on Monday. All day. Take us about 12 to 13 hours to do. So
nice.
Peace out.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, thank you everybody for hanging around here. Yes, we will be back next week. We will be back next week with a wonderful show in the news, and I'll be remote for that until we see you next week, till I see you next week. Well, just remember, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.
Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribed to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.